Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Megaman X6. In the last part, we took out our last investigator after learning some stuff about Gate, and now it's time for us to finally start our cleanup procedure, as usual for the X series. And this is probably one of the longer cleanups because, due to the fact we haven't shown off a lot of alternate pathways, there's a lot of level we haven't shown off, especially in Sheldon's case. His stage is the shortest if you're just going straight for the Maverick, but to get to the alternate pathway, we actually have to go through a bit more stage. It involves this very long and not honestly pretty needlessly long laser puzzle sequence where you need to make sure the laser reflects into the purple laser firing things, because otherwise they won't fire their own lasers out, meaning you won't be able to finish the puzzle. I'm trying to set up the mirrors as well as I can to start off with, but I will say this place can get annoying, especially if enough bugs spawn. The lasers themselves, though, are very inconsistent as to how you take damage to them. Obviously, you'll take damage if they're going through you. But I think otherwise, unless you're touching where it reflects, you're fine. Well, where it reflects or fires, I should say, rather. I think as long as lasers are still getting fired into it, though, it will not start moving on its own. So that's a bit weird. Also, the thing in the background reminds me of Midgar from Megaman X7, Final Fantasy 7 for some reason. I do wish they didn't make you have to wait around for this, like it could have just been one straight out path, laser path, but that could also be pretty hard to set up, especially if they had a lot of enemies in here. Also, do you think that's enough bugs there, game? that actually can mean more than one thing in Mega Man X6's case. You know, it's kind of weird. X6 is not a very buggy game. In fact, I'd say it's probably the least bug-ridden game in the series. It's just the fact that it has a lot of structural issues. But more on that in a moment. You can walk through this wall. The only hit you get towards this is that platform to my right. If you stand underneath it, whichever character you're playing as basically goes, huh, I feel a draft. It's kind of stupid. You need a speedster to make this, I believe. Zero. Now I'll give you data for an armor program. Obtain all 4 programs so that the armor would be complete. The one I give you now is the body program for the blade armor. With this program, X will take less damage, and the damage X receives will be converted to energy to perform the Giga Attack. Please, help X and save the world. And with this, we've completed the blade armor, which is a pretty decent set of armor I'll be showing off later on. It's, between it and the shadow armor, it's the only one I'll actually be using for actual stuff. Either going back to what I was saying, it's odd thinking about it. Most of the bad Mega Man games, be they actually bad or just bleh, don't really have bugs. It's either usually just really bad design or structural issues in general. Because, like, my biggest problem with, say, Mega Man Battle Network 4 isn't the fact that it's buggy, it's the fact that everything is very samey, you have to do multiple playthroughs for everything, and that the tournament arc means that I can't really have a set up for my folder because I don't know what double souls I'm gonna get. Whereas, say, Mega Man and Base, it's mostly just the fact that the stages are not designed with Mega Man in mind. As Base, it's okay. X6's case is the fact that a lot of the stage design is just not that good. Either way, now we're in Sheldon's Ultimate Pathway. What is this place? I think the only Mega Man game that has, like, inherent bugs that can impede my, fun with the game that I can think of, at least off the top of my head? Honestly, I can't think of any. Whether or not that's just a bias on my part, I can't tell, though. Because obviously each one of these games has some minor bugs, but nothing that can impede the gameplay experience. Also, you might have seen those 2 Reploids that were on top of spikes a moment ago. You're supposed to get those as Shadow Armor X, because Shadow Armor X can walk on spikes. Also, I got the weapons tank, which, as with X4 and 5, replaces the 3rd sub-tank, however, it gives you a way to refill some of your weapons. Also, yeah, this place isn't totally annoying as X. 0 is the only way to make that place bearable, because otherwise you're going to be falling in that bottomless pit a lot. And that's Sheldon all done and over with, so now let's head back over to Metal Shark Player. And we only had to find stuff in his alternate pathway. As for that remember that really stupidly placed Nightmare I talked about when we were there? That led to the, it was right next to the portal to the conveyor belt sequence. We have to go left there. I couldn't go left earlier because it was blocked off. And now for this. This is a really wide pit. You need 0 to make it, from my knowledge. And I think you also need Speedster and maybe Jumper. I don't have Jumper there, but it would probably make it a lot easier on you. Zero, take this armor program for X. Collect 4 programs to complete the armor. Now I'll give X the head program of the shadow armor. This program will enable X to swing the saber faster by analyzing it. I hope we can restore peace. Okay. And time for Metal Shark Player's actual alternate pathway. Which is actually, I wish, the main pathway, because it's a lot easier. What is it? It's just a right armor section. What happened? Where am I now? This is all we're doing. We're just going to the right on a conveyor belt with a crusher above us as the right armor. It's honestly kind of boring. I don't know whether or not I would want this to be the main pathway because it is more friendly. However, at the same time, it's less interesting due to how little is going on. One thing I didn't bring up during the actual playthrough of this stage, though, is that Metal Shark Player's name is transliterated and also partially mistranslated. Metal Shark is supposed to be one word, like Metal Shark. And Player is just the usual L and R switch of prayer. Which, you know, that improves his name. At least it's the usual 2 words, but This alternate pathway is not very interesting. At least I get to hear this song again. That might also be why Metal Shark Player stage ends up being one of my least favorite, because either it's really annoying because of my crushophobia, or it's just not very interesting due to the alternate pathway. I do have to admit, I'll bring this up again during the credits. I like the ideas they were going for with the alternate pathways. More ways to play, more stuff to find, so on and so forth. But I wish they had executed it better, be it more obvious ways to go through them, or better rewards for going through them. Because as they are, they're not very interesting. Or heck, maybe even give them new gimmicks besides what the actual stages had. Because that's another big issue they all have. They are basically the exact same stage designs, just with new layouts. Either way, we're done there. Now it's time for us to go somewhere else, I believe. But I am going to be equipping the damage barrier onto 0 for this. What does that do? It doubles your invincibility frame length, and that is needed for what I'm about to do, because we're heading into the Rainy Turtleoid stage. In this section we were at earlier, where is right before the boss fight, I believe, I mentioned this place. Aelia even mentioned that X could go through here because he's shorter. If you have the damage barrier, you can dash through both and get to the really stupidly placed light capsule. 0. Will you give this armor to X for me? Obtain all 4 programs so that the armor will be complete. The one I give you now is the body program for the shadow armor. With this program, X will take less damage, and the damage X receives will be converted to the energy to perform the Giga Attack. You two are our last hope. And with that, I believe that's also all of the armor pieces, but I can't remember. I didn't write this down on my list. I just wrote down when I got them. You're supposed to get through there as X with the shadow armor. However, you get the shadow armor piece there, I think. So that's just kind of stupid. Damage barrier really helps you, though, because a lot of the Reploids in here, I'm still going to die getting. So imagine not having damage barrier. You might actually die on the way in. I think you don't have enough time to get through. It's been a while. Damage barrier, though, is a very useful part to have for certain boss fights. Also, that's where the heart tank for this stage is. I recommend getting that. And now it's time for the alternate pathway, which is here in the bottom left. And this is, again, not a very interesting alternate pathway. It's basically the room we were just in, only there's none of those spike pathways and there's just Reploids all over the place. A different area. That's weird. Well, that is actually one thing I have to give X6 a lot of credit for, is that it did fix the Aelia system, because that is one of my biggest complaints about X5, is that Aelia just stops the pace so much. Whereas here, you have the option to talk to her, which means you can take it at your own pace. And I think you only get to read each dialogue once per playthrough, which is pretty good in terms of idea, but I think they should have had them available for multiple viewings, just in case you accidentally click through a bit too fast and missed an important detail. Which I believe X7 ended up doing, which is one of the few compliments I'll actually give X7. It disgusts me to have to say that I like something about X7 more than anything else in the series. I don't like X7. How a certain great Canadian views this game, I view X7. I do not like that game. But more on that later. Really, though, the alternate pathways, I don't mind their implementation, as I said earlier, but I really do think, as I said earlier, they should have done something more unique with them. Because as they are, they could just really be alternate pathways, like, say, from the Sonic series, where, say, if you went an upper route instead of a lower route, you'd find it. Which, to an extent, they are, I will admit. But so much more could have been done, which kind of describes the game on the whole, honestly. But for doing that stage, we got a few good things. We got Hyper Dash, which is useful, I guess. But we also completed the Shadow Armor, so with that, we can now go do some other stuff, including getting the last few Reploids. But for right now, let's head back into Blaze Heatnix's stage to show off the Blade Armor, because now it's time. The cleanup's basically over aside from the last Reploid. Let's go over the Blade Armor. I really like this thing's design first off. The head parts decrease the amount of special weapon energy consumed by 1/3 and increase the shot capacity for them by 50%. The body parts half damage received and convert the damage you've taken into Giga Attack energy, which is a really good Giga Attack that I'm doing right now. That does a lot of hits. The arm parts allow X to fire a smaller plasma shot that can deal repeated damage when the shot hits an enemy, basically the residue attack from X4 and 5. And you also gain a charged saber ability that's executed by pressing up when you do your charge shot, which is something I don't use much, but it's pretty powerful. It also allows you to freeze midair, which could be potentially very useful. And the foot parts for the Blade Armor allow you to use the Mach Dash ability, which is a chargeable air dash that goes really far. And you're also invincible in the very beginning of it, and it's double the length of a normal dash. And the Shadow Armor, which we're looking at right now, I don't like too much. The foot parts allow X to stick on spikes in both walls and floors, which is how we get that last Reploid there, which had the jumper part, which I think I'm about to go put on X right now, actually. You can stick to ceilings by pressing up on the jump button and dash while upside down. And you can also fire shuriken shots downwards. By the way, we're taking a look at the rescue list. Everyone is rescued. The arm parts for the Shadow Armor turn your shots into basically the X5 Crescent Shot ability, and your charge shots replaced by powerful Saber type attack, which deals massive multi-hit damage to enemies. It only has one charge level though, but the charge speed's equal to X without any armor equipped. There are no special weapons you can use as it though. Either way, let's head into Gate's lab. This song sounds familiar, doesn't it? The secret laboratory at Gate exists in a place like this? Let's move in. I recognize this song. It's a remix of X Hunter 1 from X2, and it's absolutely kick-ass. More on the Shadow Armor in a minute. Our radar condition seems to be very bad, and I can't get a clear vision. Can you find anything? There's a big hole. This hole seems to be made for a big oaf to fit through. I assume the laboratory is below this. I think we'll lose transmission once you enter it. Just be careful. Don't worry. From here on out, people, it's all us. No more Alia. It's dark here, but I can vaguely see something. Can you identify anything, Alia? 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 I've already lost the transmission. Let's see what's here. Okay, coming up on the worst level design in the game. Zero can just double jump over these and use Blizzard Wolfang's ability to get over them. However, as X, you need the Blade Armor, the Blizzard Wolfang ability, and the jumper parts to make this next jump, because you need to use the Blizzard Wolfang ability to jump on the little ice block you make. And then you need a jumper to make that jump, otherwise you're going to land in the spikes. The Shadow Armor can technically get up here using the foot's ability, but you won't have special weapons for the boss fight. And the Blade Armor is definitely the better of the two because of that. But that's really dumb design if you need a part that you could potentially never find. Zero makes the game so much easier, and it's almost because of this that section alone, because when I first played the game, I didn't find Zero until around now, honestly. It's because of that single piece of geometry that whenever I play this game for myself, I generally go for Zero as soon as possible with Black Zero and never touch X again, because that just pisses me off. Also, high X4 enemies. Either way, Gate goes all out in this early laboratory because there's a lot of enemies for us to fight. And we're also coming up on another sequence where we're running away from fire, similarly to Blaze Heatnix's stage. Only the fire that we're coming up on is colored like generic fire, yellow, orange, and reds. And this fire is instant kill no matter what, so be careful. Either way, going back to the Shadow Armor, the body parts reduce your damage you take by 50%, and the reduced damage goes to the Giga Attack bar as usual. The Giga Attack this time is basically the Charge Saber attack that encircles you 3 times in opposite clock directions, dealing massive damage to anything you hit. And the head parts just allow you to swing the Z-Saber faster. Very underwhelming armor. Blade Armor is better on all accounts, basically, aside from walking on spikes. Either way, Gate 1 is a very annoying stage, even without the earlier geometry, because there's just a lot of instant death around here. Speedster and possibly even Jumper Zero is recommended, though you saw what my part lineup was, I believe, earlier on. And I recommend mirroring that as best you can, because it just makes your life much easier. One thing I should mention, with the generic parts and limited parts, more than one character can equip them. Like, say, both X and Zero could equip Speedster, which is actually a pretty good idea in most cases. I just prefer to give Zero Speedster over Jumper because he already has double jump to begin with. Either way, time for the boss of this stage, which is, annoying. Also, weird little graphical detail about the Gate Lab stages. In the background, there's that demon and angel statue. The farther you get, the more powerful the demon statue gets, and the more badass looking. And the angel statue becomes more and more deteriorated. Either way, boss for this stage is basically a devil, the Nightmare King / Nightmare Mother, depends on where you look. The only thing of this thing you can hurt are the eyes in the center of each of the 2 blocks. However, they only come out every once in a while once they're stopped. They are weak to the Metal Shark player ability. However, it's just recommendable just to try to get as much damage done as you possibly can. The annoying thing about this fight is the amount of damage you're going to be taking, because the pattern itself is fairly self-explanatory. Oh, I just bumped my mic, sorry about that. As well as the attacks that it uses, because they're pretty easy to see coming for the most part. But the annoying thing about this fight is just the amount of damage you'll be taking, partnered with how hard it can be to damage the Nightmare itself. Because we can only hit the center of the eyes in the center when they're trying to attack us. You can't hit them when they're in the middle, and due to the size of the Nightmare's body partnered with the speed at which it moves, it's very hard to dodge this thing. If they had slowed it down just a tad, this fight would be a lot more tolerable, especially as X. But this fight's just not very fun in my eyes. If you're playing as X, well, rest your soul. I've only ever beaten this fight as X once, and, well, it was hard. After this stage, we're actually going to be getting a cutscene with Gates. And one thing I should mention about that is that, as usual, there's a version for X and a version for Zero. And, as usual, we're not seeing the X cutscene, I believe, until later this... Actually, do I show the X cutscene? I forget. Either way. As usual, it's going to be playing the audio from the Zero cutscene, but there's a different reason for it this time. There was actually audio in the file this time. However, the person I had recording the other cutscenes for me had YouTube running in the background, and it was audible due to the recorder they used, meaning that it had polluted audio, and I still had to just insert Zero's cutscene audio, which really sucks. I won't talk badly about him for it, because it's an honest mistake. He didn't know how to work out the software too well, because it was his first time using it, but, it happens. Heck, I can't tell you the amount of times I've had to restart recordings because I realized, oh crap, I have YouTube running. During the original run of the Final Fantasy 1 playthrough, back when I started that when my brother was intended to be the co-com before Kenny joined me for the Final Fantasy games, that happened at least 4 times. Sometimes for extended periods of time. Either way, Nightmare King, Nightmare Mother, I don't like this boss fight at all. It's annoying, especially as X. I don't like it. That basically summarizes this game into that fact. But that's also one of the 3 gate stages done. This is a fairly short castle in level length. It's basically the same as King's Castle in Megaman and Base. But it's time for a cutscene. Finally, you made it. You are truly great, Zero. It's simple. Evil must be defeated. I wanted to keep silence on this, but I'll reveal the secret to you. To be honest, I didn't get here on my ability alone. I got something. It was a blessing. Guess what I got? I thought it was junk at first. It was a piece of your body. Zero, I obtained your DNA data. It couldn't be analyzed. I tried with using the latest technology. What? You used my DNA? Your DNA was just fabulous. It made high max the Nightmare easy. I couldn't contain my excitement. I could now create perfect and the strongest Reploids. God damn it, game. Stop it with those. But it couldn't match the original after all. I couldn't analyze it completely. How dare you! Delete the Nightmare virus now. It's too dangerous. It will be your undoing. How strange. You're usually so calm. Don't worry. I had enough experiments using low Reploids. And that yielded a virus from your DNA. What I should do now is to destroy the disgusting original body. I'll destroy your evil ambition. And that's the end of that stage. Okay, so I don't show the X cutscene until next part. Okay, then. But with that, I'm going to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 8, we'll be continuing on in Gates Castle, not quite reaching the end, though, because Gate 2 is long. See you guys then.